Welcome to episode 49 of the Creative Train podcast. This one's all about inspired practice. I've seen it more times than I can count, where a student says that they didn't practice since we last met because they just weren't interested or they forgot. But what they don't remember is that our time spent practicing is what really starts to rev up the creative engine. But if you're not inspired or even interested, you'll never feel like you're progressing. So I'm here to give you a few tips for yourself or maybe your own students as well. Things that I found in my 30 years of teaching music that sometimes I have to hold myself to. And it's a tough thing to kick yourself in the butt. Have you ever tried that? It's not easy. All aboard? I make a point of telling my students that the only real difference between their level of progress and my own is that in many cases I've been doing this, the teaching thing, longer than they've been alive. And before that, I've been practicing daily, dedicated for another 15 years prior to that. And there is an inevitability tied to practice. If you practice it, you'll get it. If you don't, you won't. And this is not to say that you must or will enjoy every moment of practice, but your skills and abilities will evolve and grow if you dedicate yourself. Just last night, I was having a conversation with a new guitar student. He's about 3 weeks in right now. And we were talking about practicing this new song. And I told him that same thing about practice. And he said he really gets it after all his years of piano and only ever being allowed to study the classical standard repertoire. He had totally lost his inspiration. He knew how to play, but he wasn't interested in the material. I knew that he had played, but I didn't know that he had gotten to grade 5 of the Royal Conservatory studies before the age of 13, which to me is pretty impressive. He made the connection I was about to say, and that is he gets to learn new techniques and approaches on the new instrument, learning a song that he chose and he really likes, instead of maybe learning those same techniques, learning a song that he doesn't like. And there are so many examples of this, especially in music, where there isn't just like one kind of chord or scale for pop songs, and then country songs have their own stuff, and then classical has its own stuff. It's all the same. We need to learn the same stuff, whether we're striving to learn the newest chart toppers or the classics. It's all the same. What's different is how you apply those skills and techniques. A G chord is going to be pretty much the same thing regardless of the song you're playing. But it's the rhythm and the articulation and, of course, the other instruments and vocals and lyrics that are accompanying that G chord that makes the impression of it be different. It's really the mark of someone's maturity as they progress in their music studies to gradually emerge out of the clique or pigeonhole of their preferred kind of music, and at least consider or trying to be experimenting with some other genres. I always suggest it, always. And often I get a very positive response from the student. But if they say something like, nah, country sucks, or metal's for idiots, or whatever, I'll often ask them, do you have plans or dreams of one day working in the music industry? And if they do, I tell them it is their versatility first that will land them gigs, not their ability to shred or to growl or any of the particular things associated with any of their preferred genre. Your metal heroes or pop icons, divas, whatever you want to call them, can often do much more than you hear them doing on the radio or in their social media reels. But you can be pretty sure that if they had an astute teacher or teachers and they actually paid attention along the way, that they were exposed to a much broader field of possibilities than just the particular pigeonhole you find them in now. It's the teacher's responsibility to do that. So how does one stay inspired to practice, say, if they aren't taking classes or anything like that? Well, this goes across the board for whether you do or don't take lessons or classes. First thing I think you have to do is spend time just enjoying the sound of your instrument. Now, this is music specific, but it's not always about learning a new thing every time you pick up your instrument or sit down at your instrument to practice. It's about making the most out of whatever time you have available right now to not only remind your fingers how to do their thing, but also remember why you started on this often frustrating journey at all. Secondly, I believe that when we find ourselves out of our depth with a new technique or understanding that's required of us, it's really easy to push that practice time aside quietly and hope to avoid that feeling. But it's your willingness to take things super slow, if only one beat at a time, and then maybe a whole measure, and then maybe the first verse. By taking things slowly, you are allowing the correct muscle memory to be built. Then, once you have all that sorted out, you speed up the already correct thing, and hopefully it sounds like what you were hoping for. And third, I would suggest, and it's not just a variety of styles or genres, but a variety of techniques. And when you think about it, this actually applies to all forms of creativity, from dance to cooking to music to landscape design and painting. Don't dig in your heels and swear to yourself that you will not move off this hill until you master this one thing. That's going to kill your enjoyment. Sure, get laser focused on that one thing if you're really into it and get all the charge of potential and promise out of the process. But say you're just casually learning something and you hit a roadblock that seems a bit too daunting at the time. Work at it. If you can't figure it out, then move on. Go do something you already feel good about. You need to remind yourself, sometimes more often, sometimes less often, but you need to remind yourself about how far you've actually come along this creative journey. That's why journaling, especially for music artists or dancers or something, journaling in the form of audio and video is super, super critical for you, because you need to hear how your skills and abilities have evolved. When I see somebody on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, I can notice their progress, but on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis, they won't notice their progress. And so if they have a recording that they can go back to and listen, do it, and then you're often horrified at what you hear. I'll tell people, go ahead, do the recording, practice until you feel you're getting it pretty well. Make a video recording of yourself so you can see how you're sitting with your instrument. You can see, if you're a dancer, how your body moves. Make that recording, but don't watch it. Don't watch it for a long time, weeks or months preferably. And like I just said before, you watch it back and you'll be horrified at what you just saw yourself doing. And that is the wonderful thing about journaling, right? You're not that person anymore. You're not supposed to be that person anymore. That's why you practice. The fourth point I'll bring up is one I've brought up on several episodes already, but it's super important. So here we go again. Be a kid. Remember the fascination. Remember the moment the fascination kicked in and you got seriously thinking about dropping some cash on a new hobby. Retail therapy aside, there is a financial commitment to most of what I will loosely call at first our hobbies. There's tools, materials, books, maybe classes, and then the inevitable more books, better tools, because it all means more possibilities, right? Those first glorious and uneasy moments when you were learning can last a long time. They can inspire you and they'll keep you humble, but that fire is still new and burning bright. After some time, though, you can start to feel the sameness of things start to creep in when you're doing the same things with the same materials over and over. And somewhere in the back of your mind, ennui or boredom has started to turn into disinterest and an ability to finish things or to start anything new. When I recognize this in my music students, I'll spice things up a little bit by, say, changing up the sounds we're using. If we're on one of my electronic keyboards, I'll bring up a lush string sound, or something sort of more human vocal-like. And you can see their eyes light up and it's like, whoa. Or if it's an electric guitar, I'll dial in a bunch of reverb or chorus or something that's very unusual. And it's really cool to see how the person's approach to playing suddenly changes within seconds because they're in control of something new again. It's just like when they first started and these new sounds were still, well, they were new still. But we can get bored of things. And just like with food, whatever your favorite meal is, eventually you're probably going to want something else, right? So it's giving yourself the freedom and permission to play, trying to keep part of your mind associated with that initial fascination that you had that got you to invest and commit to this new thing that you're doing. Not only does this keep your motivation and inspiration up, but I really think it keeps our minds fresh and agile and maybe even age resistant when we allow ourselves the time to play. At times, I have to kick myself in the arse about these same issues. And the frustrating part is that I know if I were my own student, I'd tell myself what I've just been going on about to you. I have all those loosely scripted motivational speeches on the ready in my head, but I don't often remember to press play on the tape machine. So there you go. Some pretty important things to do if you feel the need for some inspired practice. There's your pep talk. Now go get to work. And by no means is this a one-size-fits-all approach to inspired practice. But I think that there's a magic involved in creation of anything, whether you're, designing a new kind of dress or shirt, or maybe you do glass like me, or music. Maybe you're improvising in the kitchen on a new dish with some spices that you've heard are really good and you're excited to play. But when you keep things fresh like that, it's hard to not want to keep at it. You know what I mean? When you're inspired and motivated, you just got to keep going.